Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 977th Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. And what a battle I've got for you today. Fought on one of our old school battle maps here, the Germanic Forest. Remember where you've got the big open plains if you want to fight out in the open there. And of course with the winter bonus. And of course you've got the woods there if you want to bring barbarian troops, so you get the woods and the winter's bonus. Or if you just want to hide your troops and spring those nasty ambushes onto enemy troops, this map's kind of got it all for that, for those factions, if that's what you want to do. Okay, our first teammate is Brotherhood member EthEth. Now EthEth has got 13 pikes, 2 archers and 5 cavalry. Okay, quick look at them here. And you'll see that I think he's got mixed upgrades. Some of his pikemen have got 8 upgrades on. Some, I believe, have got 7 upgrades on. And I think a couple of his units there, the cheaper phalanx pikemen, have got no upgrades. You see that at all? No upgrades. So I'm guessing they're going to be his pilot shield units there to soak up enemy pilots and make first contact with the enemy. So, as I say, he's got mixed upgrades through his pikes. Quick look at the upgrades on his cavalry, and he's got 7 upgrades, an experience stripe, a gold shield, gold attack on his cavalry. Remember, we call these guys the tanks of the ancient world because they're armoured from head to toe, and used properly they can be battle winning troops there. So there you are, that's his Seleucid army. Quick look at his archers there. Unfortunately, the Seleucid archers are only mid-range, and if you notice, if you look at them closely, you'll see they wear no armour, so their defence is pretty poor, and as I say, they're only mid-range archers there, so not very good really, the archers. But that was an interesting army there of EthEths. Okay, our next teammate is Brotherhood member Mars. Now he's got the bog standard 31k Roman army of 14 infantry and 6 cavalry. And the reason that's been the bog standard 31k Roman army for so many years is because it's so effective and so efficient. Okay, if you notice, no archers. He hasn't bought any archers in that army. And our last teammate is myself, Spartan Commander, who's got 16 Sacred Band Spearmen in his Carthage army and 3 Balearic Slingers. Okay, there are the Balearic Slingers there. I just thought, just in case you might not have noticed before, can you see the pouch they carry on their hip there? Of course, that's where they keep their slingshots. And a lot of you might not know that slingers get 40 slingshots, and archers in this game only get 30 arrows. So those guys got 40 slingshots, and as I say, archers only get 30 arrows. Notice no cavalry in this army. I've concentrated on the spears here, and that's where I spent all my money. Should be a great battle for you to watch. And here is the other team. We have Brotherhood member Sultan Adnan. Now he's got 16 pikes and 4 archers. Yes, 16 pikes and 4 archers here in his Thrace army. If you check out the upgrades on his Thracian pikemen, if you count them there, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fully upgraded. 3 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. So he's got 3 veteran stripes, gold shield, gold attack on his pikemen there. Okay. Have a look at his archers there. Now these are also only mid-range archers, and as you can see, no armour, so their defence is pretty poor as well. So say mid-range there, archers, and notice no cavalry. Okay, so he's bought no cavalry in his Thracian army, and that's why he's been able to spend so much money on fully upgrading them. And can you see how he split his army into 2? He's got the general mini army at the back and his main army at the front there. Quick look at the, if you haven't seen the Thracian general before, there's a Thracian general there. So I say interesting battle formation there, keeping those 5 units kind of in reserve. Okay, their next teammate is Brotherhood member Royer, who's bought the Macedonian faction. Now he's got 14 pikes, okay, and 6 cavalry. 14 pikes, 6 cavalry. Notice no archers. Okay. And let's have a look at the upgrades on his Macedonians. Right. Okay, now I would suggest this is unusual. He's only got gold shield, gold attack on the front line of his Macedonian battle formation there. Now we know Macedon morale is not very good, so experience stripes are very, very important. Okay, so that whole front line of his battle formation is only gold shield, gold attack. and the units behind that have just got 7 upgrades on, and experience strike, gold shield, gold attack. Now we know that the optimum upgrades for Macedonian Royal Pikemen are 8 upgrades, 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. You need those veteran stripes because Macedon morale is not very good, so that's why the optimum upgrades are 2 veteran stripes, gold shield, gold attack. So it'll be interesting to see how well these just gold shield, gold attack Macedonian pikes do during the course of the battle. I'm guessing probably 7 upgrades. Yeah, they are. You've got 7 upgrades on his companion cavalry, and as we've looked at before, the winged horsemen there because of the wings on their helmets. And don't forget their massive 9 charge bonus. Remember, the charge bonus is the impact and penetration a unit can do, and that's how good they are. A 9 charge bonus there. Interesting battle formation there, would you say? Interesting battle formation there. Got the long line at the front, but he's stacked 3 stacked units there on this particular flank. So I'm guessing that this flank here is where he's going to attack, okay, with those mass pikes, and those are just going to hold the line there. I'm just guessing there, but as I say, an unusual battle formation maybe. And their last teammate is Brotherhood member JGP. Now he's got 12 infantry, 2 archers, and 6 cavalry. Okay, 12 infantry, 2 archers, and 6 cavalry. If I remember correctly, I think some of his infantry, has got an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack on them. But I think he's certainly got mixed upgrades through his infantry, and other units have just got gold shield, gold attack. So as I say, mixed upgrades with his SBQR army. So it'll be interesting to see how well he does with them during the course of the battle. So there's the enemy team. It's got the potential to be a cracking battle. Okay, at this stage of the battle, I thought we'd have a look at EthEth classic pike battle formation there. I say EthEth's been playing RTW for many, many years, and that is an old school, old-fashioned pike battle formation there. As you can see, there are a lot of veterans watching this will recognise that from many, many years ago, and his cavalry backing up that battle formation. If you have a look at Mars' battle formation there, you can see kind of like he's got a small mini army at the front of his main battle formation there. Okay, but he's made sure he's got pilot shield units in front of both of those mini armies there, soak up enemy pilers. And then we're going to go back to 2005, 2006 and see my old school, old-fashioned block formation. Okay, you don't see this this out-of-date, probably old-fashioned battle formation these days. Okay, at this stage of the battle, I just thought I'd show you what Royer's doing here with his companion cavalry. Very slowly, nonchalantly, if you like, moving his cavalry into the woods on our right flank there. Probably hoping that we won't notice him. Notice how slowly he's moving them there. Just moving them slowly like that. Hopefully, maybe we don't notice that, so we can then hide them in the woods and spring an ambush on our flank. I just thought I'd show you that nice little sneaky move there by Royer. I think we're going to have to start calling him Sneaky Royer. Okay, so just to give you a heads up on what the team has decided here. So Mars with his Roman army is going to face JGP's Roman army. That makes sense, doesn't it? That's what we've decided there. Okay, my Carthaginians are going to face Macedon. Remember, those are big 121-man units, but Carthage specifications allow them to punch above their weight when it comes to those units. But I need to be careful not to get close to SBQR, because obviously I don't want a mouthful of pilers from those SBQR units thrown at me. So I'm going to have to be tactical on moving forward there. And EthEth with his Seleucids are going to face Thrace. Okay, so that's just to give you a heads up on that. Okay, now what I'd like to show you here is something you might find interesting. If you notice the length of the Seleucid pikes there, okay, as I say, you might find this interesting. So just remember that, the length of the Seleucid pikes. Then look at the length of the Thrace pikes. And what you'll find is the length of the both units' pikes are the same. So you might think that the units are specification-wise the same, but actually you'd be wrong. The Thracian pike units, without any upgrades on, only cost 580 denarii. Okay, and for that you get an 8 attack and a 13 defense. Okay, but the Seleucid pikes without any upgrades on, Okay, they cost 730 denarii, but you get a 10 attack and 14 defense. Okay, so the Seleucid pikes, without any upgrades on, are superior to the Thrace pikes, but the Thrace pikes are cheaper. So, of course, you've got more money with Thrace to then upgrade your pikemen. And as we've seen, Sultan has fully upgraded his pikemen there. So now his Thracian pikemen are better than the Seleucid silver shield pikeman there, because if you remember, EthEth only got 7 upgrades on his silver shield pikeman, where these phalanx pikes are now fully upgraded. These Thrace pikes are fully upgraded there. Okay, so as I say, without any upgrades, the Seleucid silver shield pikes are better than the Thrace pikes. But because the Thrace pikes are cheaper, you can put more money on the upgrades, and that kind of makes up for it. So at this stage of the battle, the Thrace pikes are superior to the Seleucid pikes because he's upgraded them so much. I just thought you might find that interesting there, because later on in the battle, as I say, the Seleucids and the Thrace are going to fight each other there. They're going to lock horns. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. Okay, so as I say, we're moving forward here, and my target is Macedon. As I say, EthEth Seleucids is going to take on Thrace there, and of course Mars is going to take on JGP. It's got the potential to be a cracking battle. Okay, at this stage of the battle, you'll see that Mars is actually running his July army forward towards JGP very, very aggressively. But as we know, JGP will not back down either. So you can see these two aggressive generals actually running their armies almost into each other there, as you can see. So very, very aggressive there by Mars and JGP. There'll be a lot of pilot exchanging going on now between them. As you can see there's the pilots there. Loads of pilots going into to each army there. So as I say, very, very aggressive move there by Mars and JGP. And that's just, as you can see there, just as the battle is starting there with those two. Okay, you'll see I'll move my Carthage army forward. Don't forget, my target are the Macedonians, but I must be very aware of the enemy SBQR Roman army, because obviously I don't want loads of pilots thrown into my Carthaginians to weaken my units. During the course of this battle, we're going to talk about something called ATT. Okay, and what ATT stands for is Archer Tactical Targeting. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, so remember that ATT, Archer Tactical Targeting. Okay, so here you can see I've got my Balearic Slingers, and you've got EthEth's archers there. Okay, now make no mistake, we are targeting the Thracian missile troops. Okay, so EthEth and myself, our missile troops are targeting these troops. But Sultan is using ATT. Okay, Archer Tactical Targeting. Now, he doesn't care that his archers are getting hit by our missile troops. He's not going to retaliate against our missile troops. What he's doing, as I say, Archer Tactical Targeting there, he is trying to cause as many casualties as he can to EthEth units. Now, remember, these big 121-man units are extremely susceptible to archer damage, to any kind of missile damage there. Okay, and EthEth, I remember during the course of the battle saying to us, he's lost loads of men through archer damage. Okay, so as I say, remember ATT, Archer Tactical Targeting, is what Sultan's doing at the moment. He's just targeting EthEth's units. Over here, do you remember we saw Royer, sneaky Royer, taking his cavalry into the woods to hide them there, so that he could probably spring out of those woods and attack our missile troops if he gets a chance there. Okay, so as I say, I just thought you might find that interesting. Archer Tactical Targeting there, which Sultan is doing. Okay, so over here, Mars's Red Julia army is facing, as you can see, JGP's purple SBQR army. And as I say, I've got my Carthaginians there ready to strike on the Macedonians if I get a chance. Okay, now here's something that happens to all of us and is very, very frustrating. Can you see here how JGP's units have gone into those long columns there? That means he's lost his battle formation. Okay, very often if you lose one of your units and you try to move your battle formation that you've saved, the battle formation is lost, and the actual game puts your units into those long, weak columns there, and it is so frustrating when that happens, and it happens to all of us from time to time. There you are. Let's see, you can see very weak those the way that the game sets out your units there. So JGP now has got to try and sort his battle formation out as soon as he can. Luckily there's a gap between him and Mars. They've not locked horns as such yet, so JGP I would think has got a bit of time to try and sort his battle formation out. But as I say, when that happens to you, it is very frustrating, and it happens to all of us from time to time. It's just if you lose a unit and you try and move your battle formation, you'll see that the battle formation is lost. As I say here, the archers here of Thrace, using that archer tactical target in there, but make no mistake, they'll be causing massive casualties to poor old EthEth Seleucid Pike units there. Okay, we're targeting the archers as fast as we can, but I just want to show you something here. Can you see all these pikemen here? Okay, and this is just a little bit of what you can see have been killed by Thracian archers. Okay, now remember that EthEth's units are 120-man units. Okay, can you see, we'll have a look there, can you see that unit's been reduced to, what's that, 82? That unit's been reduced to 75. That unit's, what's that, 77 there, 75 there. And, you know, the tactical targeting here, the archer tactical targeting by Sultan is really causing poor old EthEth a lot of casualties there, with his 120 man units there taking so much archer damage. As I say, the big 120 man units are so susceptible to any kind of missile damage. That's down to 73 from 120, look. And you can see his units are really being thinned out by those Thracian archers. Here you'll see EthEth is aware that those Macedonian cavalry of Royers are hiding in the woods, so he's just taking his cavalry over there just to make sure that those Macedonian companion cavalry don't try and smash into our missile troops there. That's why he's taking his cavalry over there. Nice battlefield awareness there by EthEth. Now over here you'll see that Mars has moved his army forward a little bit here, and you can see that JGP is trying to sort out his battle formation as much as he can. And if you notice here, can you see that Royer has moved his Macedonians over towards JGP's army there. Now he may well be looking to integrate his Macedonian pikes into JGP's Roman army. A good strong combination, that is. But you can see here we've really kind of decimated a lot of Sultan's Thracian archers there. But you can still see he's got a lot of archers left. And as I say, with this archer tactical targeting that he's doing here, he's really causing a heck of a lot of damage to poor old EthEth's infantry. I think EthEth said it a couple of times, how he's losing so many men to these archers of Thrace. So before they even get into combat there, that his troops have been weakened already, so that could be a bad sign for a little bit later on. We just have to wait and see. There you can see JGP has now sorted out his battle formation a little bit there. It's obviously still not as good as when he first set it up, but it's a lot better than those long columns that we saw earlier, which are extremely weak. Right, can you see here, as we said, Royer is now looking to integrate his Macedonians with JGP. Right, here you'll see that Sultan is moving his Thracian pikemen forward there. Okay, he knows the Seleucid pikemen have been really damaged there by his archers, and his units here, look, they've been a little bit damaged from our fire there, but they're mostly really intact. And he's looking to charge into EthEth's troops there. But just look at the dead here of EthEth's pikemen that have just been killed by archer fire there. So you can see how weak his units are now, or a lot of his units are weak now from the archer damage that they've suffered there from the archer tactical targeting. That's a 120 man unit reduced to 67. You can see the arrows are still coming in on them now, look, there. And this unit here, that 120 man unit, reduced to 63, nearly half there. So you can see there, and remember, the units are suffering a lot of casualties like this. Their morale is getting lower and lower. We know Seleucid morale is not very good anyway. So, you know, the archer targeting here of these pike units really causing EthEth problems. And as I say, I know he did mention it quite a few times during the course of the battle. As I say, his archers and my slingers are trying to take out those Thracian archers as much as we can there. Okay, but as you can see here, my Carthaginians there, I'm going to move across to help Mars now, because it's now a 2-on-1 over there. But I am very aware that those SPQR troops of JGPs may well still have pilots to throw. And I don't want to get a mouthful of pilots coming into my Carthaginians. Here you can see Mars throwing a lot of pilots into JGPs and Royers troops there. But as I say, I don't want to get my troops damaged by JGP's archers, pilots there. So you can see now that I'm going to try and integrate my Carthaginians with Mars's Julii troops here. For those of you that haven't seen a unit go into Testudo, here you might find this interesting here on Rome Total War. You see this unit just about going into Testudo. Now this is a formation actually used by the Romans back in the day, and as you can see, it gives them really good cover from missile fire all round there. Okay, so here you can see Royer and JGP advancing into Mars. So here you can see me taking my Carthaginians forward there to engage. Okay, now as we saw earlier, this is the thicker part of the Macedonian pikes there. Remember, they were 3 stacked. Okay, their units were 3 stacked in that battle formation. So this, if you notice, is where I'm going for. I'm going for the thickest part of the Macedonian pikes there. So kind of ignoring the pikes over there. I'm hoping Mars will be able to hold there. But these are the units, this mass of Macedonian pikes is what I really want to take out there if I can. Okay, so as I say here, you can see the Thracian pikes moving forward there. And as I say, I'm moving my slingers back a little bit there because Thrace has moved forward a bit. But both myself and EthEth are trying to take out those Thracian archers as fast as we can to stop the damage happening to poor old EthEth's 120-man units there. Okay, but over here you can see that Royer's pulled his Macedonian troops back a little bit, I think just to reorganise them. And I think that's what he's doing. I don't think he's going to retreat. I think he's just reorganising. Here you can see JGP's cavalry looking to come round the flank. And you can see there that Mars's cavalry is going to counter them. But those 2 cavalry go in there like a bang as they smash into the flank and side of Mars's Red Julii infantry there. Nice cheeky little hit there by JGP. Right, let's just pause the game for a second here. So here you can see that Mars is charging his cavalry into the bulk of JGP's cavalry there, but you can also see the JGP's and a cheeky little charge there with 2 cavalry units into Mars's engaged infantry there. Okay, but over here you will see that EthEth, being the good team player that he is, that he's taking his cavalry over to help on that flank. But by taking his cavalry over there, it's then going to give unfortunately Royer's cavalry hiding in the woods there a chance to come out and maybe take out our missile troops there. So we just have to see if that's what Royer's going to do. But I can see poor old EthEth's units have been really decimated by archer fire, and he may well want to move his troops closer to his allies there because he knows how damaged his units are, and the closer he can get to his allies where he can get some support maybe, the better for him there. Okay, so yeah, there where you can see he's tactically moving his pikes over towards us. Here you can see I'm still trying to kill as many of those archers as I can, although I think I've actually changed some of my targets there onto the Thracian pikemen there, try and weaken them a little bit. But over here you'll see that the combination of EthEth and Mars's cavalry have done well against JGP's cavalry there. You can see they've routed a few units, but you can see that JGP's brought some of his infantry into the fray here as well. Okay, so he's got infantry involved there as well, and you can see that EthEth backed a couple of his cavalry units off there. But here you can see that Mars's Julii cavalry going to fight JGP's cavalry there like a bang and bang, as they charge in there. But you can also see that JGP has got infantry involved here as well. So seeing that infantry come in, it wouldn't surprise me if Mars backed his cavalry off. The last thing he wants to do is to fight infantry and cavalry there. Meanwhile here you can see that the Macedonians there and the purple JGP's infantry causing a lot of trouble to Mars's red Julii army there. You can see here that a lot of Macedonian pike units have now been routed by my Carthaginians, but you can see here that Sultan has sent a couple of his fresh Thracian pike units into the rear of my troops, so I'm now going to turn units to face the Thracians coming in on me, as well as fighting the Macedonians in front of me here, plus the SBQR infantry that are there as well. Okay, but over here you can see that the Thracian pikemen now are attacking the Seleucid pikemen there. And remember, as I say, the Seleucid pikemen very, very archer damage there. You can see him taking Sultan taking that reserve units, those reserve units over there as well, to throw into the battle if he needs to. Okay, but over here you can see poor Mars's cavalry, got a feeling, could get taken out. There's more infantry there, and plus the cavalry there of the enemy. Oh my gosh, right, okay, so I think Mars has lost most of his cavalry here from a combination of JGP's infantry and cavalry there. Okay, so we've lost there. I think if I remember right, Mars has got one cavalry unit left now. But over here, can you see how the enemy are really putting pressure on Mars's very battle depleted infantry, and they'll probably go for his general as well there, take his general away, general morale bonus away here. You can see my troops still advancing into the enemy troops, but I've turned a lot of my units to face a threat of those Thracian pikes coming in behind me. And here you'll see, actually I think EthEth is doing quite well here against the Thracians, bearing in mind the damage that he suffered from the archers there. I think he's done quite well. Here you can see EthEth taking his Seleucid cataphracts towards the Macedonian companion cavalry. That would be an interesting scrap if they lock horns. But here you can see the two pike armies here really, well, you can see they're really thrusting the pikes into each other there along that battle line here. But over here you'll see that surprisingly, I think maybe the companion cavalry of Royer are taking on the Seleucid cataphracts. Now you can see that Royer's alt attack, so he's using the heavy sword instead of the light lance there. And also if you look closely you will see there that EthEth has alt attacked as well there. Can you see that his Seleucid guys are using their anti-armor or effective against armor maces there? Okay, so you've got effective against armor maces against heavy swords. So who do you think would win the scrap there? The Seleucids or the let's see, the heavy swords there, or the Macedonian companion cavalry there? I was quite surprised that Royer wanted to take the challenge on there of the cataphracts there with their effective against armor maces, but we just have to wait and see there what happens. But you can see, as I say, the heavy swords of the cavalry there against the effective against armor maces of the Seleucids there. But I think, looking from what I can see there, it looks like the Seleucids may well be getting the better of the Macedonians there. Here you can see the Thracian pikemen there really pushing in on the Seleucid pikes. Here you can see I'm still pushing forward. I'd like to take out that Macedonian general if I can there. But over here on this flank, can you see the Macedonians and the SBQR are really putting pressure on Mars's Julii infantry there. In fact, I think we may well lose our left flank here, just looking at the disposition of the enemy troops in comparison to Mars's troops there. Okay, so as I say here, I've turned my infantry there to face the Thracians. If you notice, my general's not engaged yet. I'm just keeping him close to my troops to give the general morale bonus. There you are, and you can see there. I just wanted to show you something here. Can you see the length of the Thracian pikes? Okay, just look at the length of those Thracian pikes in comparison to the short spears of my Carthaginians. Okay, so the long pikes have got an advantage because they can kill my troops before I can fight my way down to kill the men on the other end of those pikes. But the specifications of Carthage allows them to punch above their weight when they fight the big 120-man units. So as I say, Carthage really does punch above its weight when it comes to these big units, as you've seen fighting a Macedon there. Right, can you see here, this is Mars's last cavalry unit here. Be interesting to see how he uses it. He might well go for the Macedonian general unit. There you are, he's going to go in there, bang, smashed in there. Nice hit there, took out that Macedonian general. Right, now I can start changing the trajectory of my sacred band now. I can start concentrating on that's the general that's been routed there, but I can now start to concentrate on the enemy coming in on my flank. Okay, so you've got all these SPQR infantry JGP plus those Macedonian pikes coming in on my flank there, so I can now turn my attention to try and counter that. Okay, but over here I can see that EthEth is under a heck of a lot of pressure. A lot of his units have already been routed there. But the good news is that his Seleucid cataphracts won the battle with the Macedonian cavalry, as we thought they might do. Now, he might go for those archers that have been plaguing him all the way through the battle, or he may well take his cavalry round behind the enemy troops. We'll just have to wait and see. But there you can see I am now turning my attention, the bulk of my Carthaginians into these enemy SPQR troops and those Macedonian troops there. Okay, so there you are, you can see me doing that now, really fiercely and aggressively attacking those Macedonians and SPQR troops with my Carthaginians there. Oh my gosh, I think that's a Seleucid general has just been taken out. So EthEth just lost his general morale bonus. Right, so as you can see here, my Carthaginians are making inroads into the enemy SPQR. I've got units facing one direction, units facing another. They're gone after my general there that was a little bit isolated. They're gone after him there. But what I've noticed here is that EthEth is under a heck of a lot of pressure. He's only got 2 pike units left. His general's been killed. There, that's the last of the men in his general unit. He's just got those 2 units left there, I think. So what I need to do is get some Carthaginians over there to try and help him there. So I'm moving this group of very tired. Can you see those Carthaginians are tired? So their battle proficiency will be low and their morale will be low. But I'm going to move them over there to try and help EthEth there. And as I say, here you can see it's a real tussle here between the SPQR infantry of JGP, the Macedonians of Royer, against my Carthaginians there. There's a few of Mars's Julii troops left, you can see that, but his general's been taken out. And you can see those JGP's charges cavalry in there. I think he's going for Mars's last cavalry unit if he could get that. Okay, so I'm going to show you something interesting in a second here. In regard of experience to RTW. Okay, right, so let me pause the game for a second. So over here, you can see that I'm sending that group of tired and battle-damaged Carthaginians in to try and help EthEth here against some fresh Thracian pikemen there. Okay, you can see EthEth has now just got, a couple of units left, pike units left there, and you can see the Thracian moving in. But I've moved those Carthaginians over to try and help a little bit against those Thracian pikemen there. Okay, so what I wanted to show you here, EthEth here uses a lot of RTW experience in what's about to happen. Okay, so just pause the game for a second here. So you can obviously see here that EthEth is going to charge his cavalry, okay, into the rear of the enemy Macedonian pikes. Okay, so you can see that. Right, now remember that my Carthaginians are fighting those Macedonian pikes head on. Okay, so I've got my spears down. Okay, please remember that. Alright, so just watch how EthEth hits the rear of these enemy Macedonian pikemen there. Okay, so just watch this. Okay, so he charges in, bang, smashes it, routs them, and then stops the charge. Can you see? He doesn't allow his cavalry to go any further. Can you guess why? Okay, so the reason why is because he knows that my Carthaginian spears are down fighting the Macedonians. If he charges cavalry on through those Macedonian pikes, he would run into my spearmen with their spears down, and he knows that he would lose a lot of his cavalry on my spears. Okay, so you can see that I've been fighting the Macedonians, so my spears are all down, and if his cavalry charged through the Macedonian pikemen into my spearmen, he would lose a lot of his cavalry on my spearmen there. So that's why he did a gentle attack there. See, it was kind of gentle into the back of those Macedonians, and now he can just ride away from that situation there. You see, now he can just walk away, he's just walking his troops there, and now he can just ride away now, and without suffering any casualties on my spearmen there. Okay, remember, friendly pikes, friendly spears, when they're down, will kill friendly cavalry if they charge anywhere near them. Okay, so I just thought that was a good example there. EthEth using his experience on Rome Total War there really well. Okay, so here you can see the SBQR troops, including the SBQR general there. Right, you can see the Thracian troops closing in on my troops. Now, I think all the Seleucid pike units basically have been taken out now. There is one unit here with, what, a few men left in there. Right, so what's bothering me now is getting over to kind of rescue those beleaguered Carthaginian units I sent over. So if you notice here, I've upped spears. Now, newer players from Rome Total War, remember, you can only run with spear or pike units if you put their pikes and spears up. If you keep the pike or spears down, you can only walk. So if you notice there, I put my spears up so I can now run my troops. I'm going to run my troops through these SBQR troops of JGP to get over there to help those beleaguered units, those beleaguered tired units against those Thracian fully upgraded pikemen there. Okay, so there you are. You can see my units now running to get over there to help those units. Here you can see the Seleucid cavalry of EthEth charging in like a bang as he smashes in there with those units there. But remember, pike and spear units all got anti-cavalry bonus there. But you can see there he's charging in there. You can see he's using his effective against armor racing on those Thracian pike units there. He wants a bit of revenge on those Thracian units there for their archer damage that they did to his pike units. So I think that's why he charged in there. Right, can you see my Carthaginians now are arriving there? Watch for the spears going down there. Could you see? The moment I made contact with the Thracians there, I put the spears down. Remember, that's the strongest weapon, the spear. The secondary weapon, the sword, is just that secondary weapon. So they were ran over with my spears up. The moment I made contact with the Thracians, I put the spears down. And now you can see me being very aggressive, moving my Carthaginians into those Thracian pikemen there. You can see the Seleucid cataphract unit there, charge in there. As I say, I think EthEth wants some revenge on those Thracian guys. Right, there's a Thracian general there, surrounded by Seleucid cataphracts and my Carthaginians. Can you see that? And there's some red Julii, troops of Mars in there as well. So that Thracian general is really under threat there. Look at that. He's just not. You see we killed that Seleucid cataphract there with his sword. Oh my gosh. But look how we're closing it. Can you see my Carthaginians there closing in on him? He might get stabbed and he might go down. What? Now you watch this. I think he's going to get stabbed. Can you see he's stabbed and gone down? But he's not dead. See how he's got back up? He was wounded there, look. But now he's running away. So you can see that the general unit has now been routed, and he was, I think, the last man in his unit there. So anyway, there you are. So he's running away now. He's wounded and he's running away. Don't blame him really. But there you can see that JGP's general unit has just been routed as well, and there's one Thracian pike unit left from what I can see, and you can see my Carthaginians really making inroads into that. There you are. You can see that was JGP's general just actually being killed there. But you can see my Carthaginians making... oh, that's the Thracian general's just been killed, I think, by my slingers, if I remember correctly. So, there you go. And it looks like our team has actually managed to go on to win the battle there. But what a spread out battle for a 3v3. But over here, this is what I wanted to show you. Can you see the massive casualties that poor old EthEth suffered from those archer tactical targeting there of the Thracian archers? All these men, all these dead men here are dead Seleucid pikemen that were killed by those Thracian archers. So it just goes to show how weakened poor old EthEth's pikemen were when the Thracians attacked them with their pikemen, with their fully upgraded pikemen there. Over here at the back, do you remember that was where we saw the Seleucid and Macedonian cavalry fighting it out there? Actually, I thought the companion cavalry did quite well in the end. If you notice here, I put my Balearic slingers into close tight formation for more impact and more penetration at this stage of the battle there. I was shooting into the rear of those Thracian pikemen there. As we move across the battlefield here in the long grass there, you can see how many dead there as well. Loads of dead troops there in the long grass. There you can see, if you look down there, you can see really thick loads of dead, all fought there, and all the dead falling on top of each other there. You can see a massive pile. Over here, another lot of dead, as you can see there. As I say, for a 3v3, I think it's a very, very spread out battle here. And just look at the dead there. Oh my gosh. And over here you can see the red of the Julia army of Mars there. But yeah, you can see as we move across the long grass there, you can see the banners of the dead there still sticking up a little bit there. So as I say, I would just like to show you here that out of EthEth's entire army, he's got 1 unit left of 13 men. I think that's the only unit he's got left. He might have a pike unit somewhere, but yeah, he's got a pike unit as well. And you can see that Mars has just got 3 units left out of his army as well, all battle damaged as well. And there you are, EthEth has got a pike unit left with 3 men in it. But you can see how battle depleted we are, and all my units have been very battle depleted as well. So as I say there, we looks like we managed to go on and win the battle there. So as I say, my unit's very battle depleted as well. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to say is really well played to everybody in the game. I thought everybody played well. And as I say, whenever we get a close victory, they're so rare these days. I really like to show the close victories. Highest kills in the game went to my Carthaginians there. Very pleased with that. I got so many kills in a 3v3. But of course, I was fighting the big 121 man units of Thrace and Macedon there, so that's why I got so many good kills there. So that's the only reason. So I'd like to say well done to Sultan. Look at that, over 2,000 kills for Thrace. Unusual in a 3v3, 2 players with over 2,000 kills. How rare is that? Well done to Royer. He might be a bit disappointed he got less than 1,000 kills with his Macedonians, but he was very aggressive, I thought, there with the Mace army. And well done to JGP, got some good kills with his SBQR army, so really well played, guys. Well done to Mars, got some good kills there with his Julii troops there. Bearing in mind he was hit quite hard. And well done to EthEth. Now, seeing the damage that he suffered from the Thracian archers, I think he got some really good kills there. So well done to EthEth there. I thought really well done. Just have a look at the statistics of my army there. You'll see my Sacred Band did really well. If you look at the casualties I sustained against the kills that I got. But this the main reason I want to show you was my Balearic Slingers, right? Which you might not think to bring sometimes. 36 killed and killed 96 enemy troops there. And then the next Balearic Slinger, 45 killed 122. And then the last one at 57 for 120. So those Balearic Slingers, you know, which a lot of people might not bother to bring. Look at the kills that I got with them there. So I was very pleased with that. So faction advantage. Who do you think's got the faction advantage there? They've got Thrace, Macedon, and Rome. And we've got Carthage, Rome, and Seleucid. So I would say actually we've got the faction advantage there. What do you think? Please leave your thoughts in the comments. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this battle. Please leave your thoughts in the comments. Look forward to seeing you soon, and bye for now.